Okay, good morning. We are live on Facebook, and this is the fourth in the series of Facebook Live sessions. We started way back in the beginning of November with laser cutting, and then we did 3D printing, and last week we did vinyl cutting. And thanks for everyone's comments on that. That was really good. So this week I'm joined by my good friend and colleague, Mr. Leo Scarff, and we are going to be talking product prototyping. So we have here behind us our boards full of stuff and a table full of interesting things to show you a little bit later on. So I just want to kind of kick off the conversation explaining what FabLab Maker Hub is, in case people don't know. I think the microphone might be a bit too loud there. I think I'm blowing everybody's head off with the levels. There we go. I think that's a bit better. Apologies. Just explain what FabLab Maker Hub is. We're a mobile Fab Lab, and we're funded by the Upper Shannon Aaron Future Economies Project. We put together a little video over the summer explaining it, so I'm just going to roll the video now, just for everyone to have a understand what we're all about.
FabLab Maker Hub is a mobile Fab Lab funded by the Upper Shannon and Aaron Future Economies Project. It covers a geographical area of Counties Leitrim, Cavan, Longford and Roscommon. Its aim is to provide increased access to digital fabrication technology and deliver training on design skills, design thinking and digital fabrication. Fab Labs are a global network of nearly 2,000 digital workshops that share a common set of tools and technologies. The concept originated at the Centre for Bits and Atoms in MIT. The goal was to provide access to the tools and knowledge to educate, innovate and invent using technology and digital fabrication to allow anyone to make almost anything, and thereby create opportunities to improve lives and livelihoods around the world. Fab Labs focus on desktop digital fabrication tools and open source electronics for prototyping and invention. Contained in our mobile Fab Lab, we have 3D printers, a 3D scanner, a 40-watt CO2 laser cutter, a vinyl cutter and plotter, a heat press, and assorted programmable microcontroller boards and robotics kits. The Fab Lab is available for people of all ages, backgrounds and experience. We work with schools, community groups, small businesses and individuals, and offer short, informal hands-on workshops, training courses in product design, prototyping services, and educational STEM events for families and young people. Fab Labs are perfect for creating one-off, personalised products that you won't find in the shops, or learning a new skill to help your career or business. You can create your own branded t-shirt design, make a sign for your business or home, make personalised jewellery or gifts to keep or sell, prototype a new invention, 3D scan yourself, or just tinker with Tinkercad and 3D print something unique. FabLab Maker Hub. Take your ideas and make them a reality.
There we go, and we're back. So that gives you a bit of an idea of what the Fab Lab is all about. So, like I say, this morning, myself and Leo are going to be talking product prototyping. What I want to start off with, Leo, is a kind of a definition of what you think of as prototyping.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of thing to discuss. I always kind of break it down, because a prototype for me, what I always say is that it's the closest to kind of the finished thing that is possible. So not only does it actually look like it, but it needs to be made from the materials that it's going to be made from.
So it's close to the final product.
Well, as close as you can get.
Get.
That's the interpretation that I have. Working back from that,
Yeah,
obviously,
there's a
you
whole
have
series of processes to get to that stage.
yeah. You would have models first, which are very often to a certain scale.
Yeah.
So depending on the size of the finished piece, if it's a car, you'll make it a certain scale. If it's a piece of furniture, you'll make it a different scale. But then there's also kind of tests that you can make along the way, where you might just make a full size part of
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's kind of testing out the strength of things, testing the form, testing the functionality, whether parts need to move or there's kind of fittings involved. So there's a whole series of kind of steps that you would take along the way before you get to a kind of a final prototype, which again is as close as you can get to the real thing.
What is your objective with a prototype? Obviously, other than sort of like seeing it as close to finished as possible, is there one objective or many objectives, or does it depend upon what it is that you're actually making?
It depends really, but obviously the goal with a prototype is to test how it looks, how it feels, how it works, whether structurally it's strong enough. But also, later on, as you go through several prototypes, towards the end, you're actually testing, the things like finishes, how particular joints go together, because various products might need to clip together or have a press fit. So there's a whole series of prototypes that you would make.
Yeah. So it's an iterative process in terms of you make a prototype and then you observe and see how it functions in terms of what your kind of brief is.
Yeah.
And then sort of like cycle back on that and maybe change some aspect.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and like I say, the later you get, or the closer you get to the actual manufacturing of the piece, the kind of testing side of things comes in there, where you're physically testing the strength of it. Maybe like if it's let's say a chair, you would obviously test the strength of the chair. There are kind of rigs that you can set up, which people have probably seen them, where it's literally it mimics the pressure that a person would have on a seat, and they do that 20,000 times to test the strength of it and to test lots of things. It might actually be testing finishes,
Right.
Like if you have a particular covering on a certain thing, if it's given a rub test, it'll test the ability of it to withstand that over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So there are kind of technical tests that you can make later on, but that's way down at the end of the whole process. Yeah.
So cycling right the way back to kind of like the beginning, you start off with an idea. I mean, you're principally furniture and lighting designing, so obviously that's where you have you're most comfortable in that area. So when you're thinking about designing, say, a new piece of furniture, where do you typically start in the process?
Well, we start. I've got some drawings here.
Oh yeah, let's have a look. Bring this forward here. Hold this up to the camera there.
Yeah. So obviously the process mostly starts with a sketch. That's how kind of people visualize what they have in their head.
Yeah.
So for a product designer, it's really critical that you can sketch in some form. That's a kind of a board from an exhibition that we put on about 5 or 6 years ago.
One there that particularly catches my eye is the little kind of rocking horse here in the centre. These drawings here are really fascinating in terms of the kind of development of the shape. Is that something you were trying to sort of like play around with when you were?
Yeah, that was actually for an exhibition in the Arc up in Dublin, and that show it basically hinged around the whole process of designing something from start to finish. So I needed to document the process all the way along. So obviously I kind of chose something that every child would like, which is the kind of classic rocking horse.
Yeah.
And you can see kind of how the ideas kind of evolved. I mean, that's just one little page of drawings. There was lots and lots of drawings.
Yeah.
So I was looking at obviously you're testing form, you're testing structure, how the different parts go together.
Yeah.
And then you're testing materials, maybe, how something might look. So you're not only just drawing in black and white. I obviously draw with a pen. I people can use anything. But later on you might add colour to that drawing to test out different colours, fabrics, woods, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, the sketching process is critical, and it's not just about. I always say it's not just about the actual drawing, that you're actually taking notes too. So some people like to just draw; they're just drawing lines. Whereas I like to kind of document in text form what a certain thing is.
So annotate.
Yeah. I think it's really important because that's what a sketch is all about. That you're thinking, along a certain line, and
I think we've got a good slide here that kind of explains what you're talking about.
Yeah, I brought along some slides for everybody to look at today. I always start by throwing up a quote.
This is a good one. I like this. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, a prototype's worth 1,000 meetings.
Yeah, it's a nice kind of twist on the classic kind
David
of
Gates
phrase.
song.
Yeah. It's basically saying that rather than that classic scenario of the words and a picture, everybody goes to meetings and they spend hours in meetings not actually getting anywhere, talking and showing stuff, and they come out going, what was that about? So yes, I mean, a prototype, as I was saying, if you have a fully kind of finished functioning prototype, it speaks everything. You don't need to say anything. It's all there. It functions. It looks the way it should.
Yeah.
So that can mean so much, that you have a really good prototype.
The next one then.
So yeah, I mean, you were asking earlier there what I think a prototype is. That's a good kind of
definition,
starting point. Yeah. It's from a book which came out about 25 years ago now, called The Universal Principles of Design. It's published by Rockford Press, and in that they state that the use of simplified and incomplete models of a design to explore ideas, elaborate requirements, and refine specifications and test functionality.
Kind of what we said, yeah.
It's pretty much what we
said. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think that sums it up. It's a way to explore, to refine, and to test.
Yeah. So, like we were saying, the sketching's important, and here's some sort of early stage sketches of these, or what?
Yeah, this is just a random selection that I put together. Most of them aren't mine. It's just showing you the kind of iterative process that you were saying there, where you might be working on a certain thing. You might have a brief, in this case, to design a bottle. And it's a process of just working through every idea that comes into your head. I always say when I talk to people about kind of sketching and drawing, that it's very important that you don't kind of get hung up on having a pencil and having a rubber. I always ban that from any kind of workshops and classes. I always say use a pen. And in that, it sounds a bit silly, but what you're actually doing is you don't have the ability to rub out
to
what you're
rewrite
doing.
history.
Yeah. So it's you have to draw it
warts
once.
and all.
Yeah. Draw it once, and then it's not. It's obviously not right. So you have to draw it again. Yeah. And you're drawing again and again and again, and you're doing lots of things there. You're obviously drawing several versions of what you're doing, but it actually makes you better at drawing by drawing maybe the same thing 10 or 50 times.
Yeah.
So people always start out by maybe not having such great skill at drawing, but if draw it,
these are more kind of like formed sketches, because you're introducing color and like I say, you're starting to annotate things there as well.
Yeah. There's several slides here. This one, is very much about that. I think in this case it's a bin, a pedal bin, and you can see that they're exploring. Pretty much the same form. It's kind of an oval shape and plan, but they add variations. They add texture and shading and color. So it's sketching is really the starting point to explore any product. And
then you get onto more sort of like you're saying, sort of focusing in on specific parts, like the handle there with the with the display on it or whatever.
Yeah, so again here they're kind of refining how that product looks, adding in various elements. In this case, a kettle, you're going to have displays of different kinds. You might have LEDs, you might have switches of different types. It needs to have, it needs to show you how full the kettle is, so you'll have different types of plastic being used. So it's kind of noting all the while, what each particular part of the product might be. So you'll do many drawings.
Yeah, and they're sort of like already starting to sort of like list materials there, sort of like ABS handle with brushed steel. There's kind of the lid there, sort of embossed onto the branding, embossed onto the lid. So they're already starting thinking about materials and how they're gonna, incorporate the that into the design, just from a sketch form.
Yeah, I mean, even something as simple and straightforward you would think is a kettle. These days, it's there's an incredible amount of work that goes into that kettle.
Yeah.
So, you might do, many drawings just of one part of it.
Yeah.
So in this case, again, you're just taking it a step further. Here, it's a kind of a backpack, I think. And in this case, it's not just showing the kind of form, but it's showing the functionality, how the parts might move or connect, and in this case, package up in different ways.
We've got the sort of like the arrows denoting sort of like how things fit together, and how they kind of like join together and stuff like that. So again, you're doing more than just showing a picture of it. It's showing function and use along with the product itself.
Yeah, and you're adding in. You can see color being used there. You can see texture. So sketching, it starts with a line drawing, but it develops into, in this case, you're getting closer to, realistic kind of drawings of how the piece will look. And again, very nice kind of hand drawn there sketch of a trainer, and it's a good one to kind of point everybody in the direction of a series which came out there.
It was fantastic.
2017.
Yeah, they've had two seasons of it actually now. It's really good. The second season was even better than the first one.
I've only seen the first one now, but it's a Netflix documentary called Abstract.
The Art of Design.
Probably a lot of people have seen one or two. The whole series is great.
Yeah.
In particular, I enjoyed the one of Tinker Hatfield.
Who's he then?
He's very famous for designing sneakers for Nike.
Okay.
He's designed literally thousands for them. Very importantly, the kind of the Jordan Air series, which has been around for a long time now.
Yeah.
But in that piece, it's about 50 minutes long, and it goes through the whole process that he goes through with his hand-drawn sketches and making prototypes, many times. And just he talks about how important that process is to getting the form right, getting how it looks right. So it's a very good series to check out.
I definitely recommend if you have Netflix, go and check out.
It's an interesting one just to say today, because it is, I think Netflix made it available on YouTube just for this year.
Oh really? Okay.
So normally you have to have Netflix, but it is available.
Put it up on their YouTube channel.
And fantastic. It's also available on a website called DZine, which is a famous kind of design
website.
Channel.
This is interesting. This is moving more away from the sketches into actual starting to make something for real.
Yeah, this is a very famous product designer called Konstantin Gertrich. He's a Swiss-German product designer, has been working for many years, lots of different firms, and this is just grabbed off the web. It's an image of a famous plastic chair that he worked on some years ago, and his studio is like many studios who work on a range of different products. They really get started into kind of physical mock-ups quite fast.
So you use the word mock-up there. How would you distinguish a mock-up as from or is that just a process in the prototyping?
I'd say it's the starting point.
Yeah.
It's when you've kind of got through the kind of sketching phase, and you're happy that you're focused in a particular area. Then you really need to start saying, right, we're going to make it up in whatever we have. In this case here, it's a chair. It's
cardboard and paper, and
they've literally used anything. I think they've got kind of chicken wire, which they've formed, and
gaffer tape.
And for the frame here, which in reality would either be metal or it would be plastic, they're literally just getting bits of cardboard, cutting them up, sticking them together. You can see that there's kind of infill panels there, which just give it the structural strength and make it stand up. Even, so it's a really crude mock-up, and it's just to kind of start to test how a material might fold or might kink or might kind of work for that particular piece.
Yeah.
So that's really important. that kind of process of starting to make a 3D form can actually inform the sketches again.
Yeah.
So you're kind of working forward, and then you might take a step back.
Yeah.
This particular slide here is a company, quite a famous company in Europe called Layer Design. And they work again on a whole range of things, not just furniture. But these are some nice photographs of their process, their
and they're
studio.
using cardboard down the bottom there. They started off with the sketches, obviously, of how they want it to look, and then they're sort of like, they know it's going to be a 3D form, but they're sort of like flattening that out so that they can work out what the 2D form is that they can then sort of.
Yeah, so they,
shape.
If you're working on a particular piece, in this case again a chair, they know that it might be using, let's say, a laminated wood. That might actually be one of the kind of points that they're given in their brief, that you need to use a laminated wood form. So that, there's always a pointer that will direct you in a particular way, that you're not just randomly doing any number of things, that you're kind of focused in some way. So in this case, rather than kind of making molds and kind of going straight to kind of laminating wood, you need to start with, in this case, cardboard. You can achieve those beautiful curved forms just by scoring it and folding it up. It's not going to be sat on. It's merely to start to give you that form that you need. They've used random pieces of wood here to kind of hold that form in place.
No, it looks lovely.
So it's a process of going kind of forward and backwards and kind of testing out how things look.
I recognise him.
Yeah, well, it's, you can't kind of talk about prototypes without talking about this man. Dyson is world famous for his products. Everybody has seen something, and a lot of people these days actually have one of his products.
Yeah.
And he's probably as famous for his prototyping process as he is his products, because famously for many years now, 40 years, he's kind of been working on really innovative things that have pretty much changed the perception that people have around mostly household functional things.
Yeah, the design of household objects. Yeah.
So you could, and many people have written books about his work. Famously,
this is fantastic. I love this picture.
Yeah, this I suppose is one of the earlier Hoovers, and I say Hoover, which is an interesting kind of coin of phrase, because
it's a vacuum cleaner.
It's a vacuum cleaner, of course. Yeah, Hoover kind of grabbed that term, and it became synonymous with what it functions as. So Dyson kind of really looked at what a vacuum cleaner does, and he went right back to the core of what the mechanics, are actually doing. And famously, he built thousands of prototypes. For his first cleaner, I think it was something like 4,500 or 5,000 prototypes. And there's many kind of quotes that he has, given in the media over the years, that, he failed 5,000 times, but that just pushed him on to get it right.
Yeah.
You fail again, okay, that's not right. You do it again, until you get it exactly right.
Yeah.
So it's very much about that having the drive.
Someone once said, I worked out 499,000 ways not to do something.
Yeah.
I succeeded in
Yeah.
in working out.
That's what it takes. You know, you really need to have that kind of passion
Yeah.
to drive it forward. So that's just showing you kind of that you would start, I suppose, by making up, you know, cardboard mock-ups, whatever you have, and we can have a look at some of the materials that you're going to use in a minute. But here's a great shot of him and some of his team. Obviously, his company has grown and grown over many years. It's a big firm now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Producing numerous products, and you know it is very much that process that I spoke about of, you know, refining the product again and again and again. You might, for instance, in their case, have a team that just work on one particular product.
Yeah.
And then you will have people within that team that are specialists in certain things. There might be specialists in the motor, there might be specialists in cables, there might be specialists in switches, whatever it might be.
And they bring it all together in a prototype like this that they're sort of putting together there, you can see.
Yeah, so, you know, again, it is the case that you will just make numerous prototypes until you get it right.
Yeah. Just a few more here, like that's a hairdryer, yeah?
That's the hairdryer that they brought out a couple of years ago, yeah. But again, you know, at that stage, you're starting to kind of make a prototype which will resemble how that finished product will look.
Yeah.
But it is still a case that you will, you know, go forwards and backwards. You know, you might do some final drawings. You know, obviously to produce a particular product, you need to have lots of scale drawings showing not just the kind of, you know, front and side view and the plan.
It's interesting, we've got this far, we haven't even talked about the digital side of things yet.
Yeah, sure.
So, like, we're still talking about, I guess, like, hand crafting and, you know, hand sketching. This is before we even get to, you know, bring stuff onto a digital realm where we could, you know, use digital fabrication tools to help with the process.
Yeah. I think the next few slides will kind of get more into that.
Yeah.
So the further down that path you go, you will need, you know, those kind of tech drawings. So mostly today people use CAD in lots of different forms. So whether it's to produce a 2D drawing, and you can see here not just kind of views of the piece, but you'll actually take sections through at different points, and that section you can see on the bottom left there is going to show you how the structure, you know, inside the piece is, because obviously you might have a thickness for the outer casing, but inside you're going to have tons of stuff going on.
Yeah.
You need to show where all those parts are, how the whole product fits together.
And again, it's kind of annotated, showing what everything is and you know what it relates to.
Yeah, so you'll have a lot of drawings. Now you can of course do those in 2D, but these days a lot of the time designers are using programs like SolidWorks, in which to draw in 3D. So it's becoming a lot easier to kind of take those drawings that you need from that 3D form, because you can take a section through that 3D drawing at any point, and it's very, very easy.
Extrapolate out the pieces that you need. Yeah. This is your motor, is it? This is what you drove here today.
Project that we worked on a couple of years ago. No, sadly no. This is a prototype car. It's a Mercedes, which, you know, again, different teams around the world, you know, will work on car design is a massive area, and it kind of brings in every aspect of product design today, and it has done for 100 years. It brings in the technologies that we have today in a very focused way. And in terms of producing prototypes, a lot of the technology, the leading tech that we have today is put into cars and how they're made.
Yeah.
This is a really incredible looking scale.
I was just saying that's
prototype.
a scale model. That's
Yeah, so here we can talk about it in a minute, but you might either start with clay. Clay is still used because it can be sculpted very well. You could also use foam, large blocks of high density foam.
uh-huh.
In this case, they might have even taken a vacuum formed plastic cast from
Yeah.
that. It could be using fiberglass, and it could be coated in resin. It could be polished. So you can use lots of materials to kind of achieve that form.
Could even be 3D printed.
And it could, of course. So, yeah, I mean, just to get into that area, obviously in the last kind of 10, 15 years, 3D printers have completely transformed how products are created. The ability that a 3D printer has to take practically anything you can think of and visualize in 3D or scan, as we've done in the lab here, it really just takes it to the next level, because you can take that form, and within minutes or an hour or two, you can have a prototype, a fully functioning piece in your hand.
Scale, just like that car scale model of a.
So it's kind of transformed how a product designer works.
It all starts, like you say, though, with a 3-dimensional CAD drawing, and again, this is something that CAD software can do very easily, is give you these kind of isometric views of things.
Yeah, years ago, before CAD really took hold, that's the kind of drawing that you would need. It's showing the plan, side view, front and back.
Yeah.
Those kind of 3 or 4 views are critical to actually designing anything. Every product that we have in the world today, somebody somewhere has probably made a drawing like that.
Yeah.
So, once you have those kind of 4 drawings, you can, of course, create a 3D drawing from that. So that's probably maybe the most important step along the way, because it's really putting the shape and the form on what you're trying to do. This is the mirror chair by Herman Miller.
Yeah.
And I was saying there that kind of cars are a focal point for a lot of the tech that goes into product design today.
I actually had one of those chairs in my old recording studio.
Herman Miller have kind of...
I'm not sure if it was an actual Herman Miller. It might have been a rip-off.
Right, okay.
But, yeah.
There
Great
are
chairs.
Yeah, there are kind of certain products that come along once in a while that kind of break the mold, to excuse the pun, in terms of how that kind of product is made. Herman Miller are one of the top firms in the world, certainly when it comes to office furniture. And they wanted to examine, I suppose, the environmental side of what they're doing.
Yeah.
So they took a kind of a typical process of producing an office chair these days, there are literally about 100 parts that will go into it, a typical chair. And very often all those parts were, either glued together or screwed together in such a way that they couldn't be taken apart. So they wanted to create a chair that was kinder to the environment, in that most of the material being used is either recycled or can be recycled very easily. So you can see quite a few parts still in the chair, but everything there can be sorted, taken apart,
can be knolled quite nicely.
Yeah. So it's critical today that product designers kind of think about that. I mean, I do it in my own work in a very small way, just to to examine what the thing is made from and make sure that it's the materials are coming from a good source, that it's kind to the environment in terms of how it's made, what it's used for, and then at the end of its life where it goes. I think we can do that in a very straightforward way.
I think that's a good point, and it's a good moment for us to sort of switch over and have a look at some of the stuff we have on the table here and talk about some of the materials, and how you kind of think about using materials and processes. So we'll switch over to the screen here. Give us 1 second. There we go. If we bring the microphone in so that we can be heard.
Okay.
There we go. So look at this array of goodies here that we have in front of us. And the array of goodies behind us as well.
I've just brought in, I suppose, a couple of boxes of things to have a look at and some products.
Nice stool, and this one here behind us, the coat stand.
Yeah, that's a product.
Earlier, this is a sort of a first working prototype of that.
Yeah, it's called the Campaign coat stand, which I designed about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's based on kind of campaign furniture which folds and collapses. So the piece actually comes in a cardboard tube, flat pack, and you take it out and unfold it and connect the parts.
Fantastic.
So it's a piece which did involve a little bit of work in terms of how those parts connect and how it kind of flat packs.
It's great.
So
talk us through some of these materials here and some of the designs and prototypes that you have.
Well, I suppose to start with, taking the kind of sketch drawings that we spoke about there, the next step, I suppose, is to start making a model of some kind. Yeah. You can see a few of these here. These are some little tables that I've been working on. Years ago, very often I would make kind of models by hand. Either cut out, with a knife or a saw, and literally fashion together to create your form. These days, because laser cutting has kind of taken hold, and we have one of those for a few years now. It's very easy to kind of take that tech drawing that you have, lay it out in such a way that you have all your different parts, and you can create, this piece would actually be about maybe 700 mil high, but you can very easily scale that drawing down to make a model of a particular scale. So in that case, it's a 1:10 scale model, and so you're selecting the materials you're going to use according to what it would be in reality. Yeah. So I know that the actual thickness of that sheet that I've used is going to be the correct scale to what it actually is in reality.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So you got your sketchbook there, where you have the original kind of like sketch drawings of that table.
Yeah, I'll just hold that up so everybody can see it. So this is a sketchbook full of drawings, and you can see that, you know.
Is that classified?
I would do many drawings of a particular piece. You know, again, I'd add colour to that, and you can see some variations there on a particular form. So, you know, cutting pieces from kind of flat sheets. You know, in this case here, it's a pot stand, which comes out of this flat sheet, and just by jointing parts together, you know, you can actually create a 3D form from that 2D sheet. Mm-hmm. So using a laser cutter is a really amazing tool to kind of help you along the way in creating form. There's another piece there which I might lean over to get.
Yep.
This particular one here can demonstrate, I suppose, how you can make a kind of a fluid, larger form in flat sheets.
Okay.
The software.
So what is that a prototype of?
This was a prototype of a large light fitting.
Oh, okay. So that would have been kind of that big, kind of.
It was for a boardroom a couple of years ago. It was a large kind of torus type shape.
Yep.
So it was a big kind of, I think it was about 1400 millimeters.
Right. Okay. Wow. Big. Yeah.
Piece. And that was a test. I'll just hold it up to the camera again. That was a test, kind of showing how the parts lock, you know, together to create that form.
Yeah.
So that was to test not just how the product might be made, but how it was going to slot together, and the kind of tolerance that I would need to leave.
Okay, on your actual sort of digital drawing, so when you were sending that off to be, you know, laser cut, or
in this case it was CNC cut.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, you would need to, rather than spending, you know, hundreds or thousands to create the final piece.
Yeah.
Very important that you get a test made.
So not only are you creating scale kind of drawings, you're just kind of scaling the materials that you're using for the prototypes to ensure that when they're kind of like blown up to big size, you can be sure that they're going to actually fit together the way you want them to fit together.
Well, it's, you know, critical. I think because you could waste a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then, in terms of like choosing materials, we've got a whole range of fantastic looking materials here. This is obviously, you know, the kind of the playground that you can play in terms of, like, you know, choosing, like you're saying, sort of finishes to things.
Yeah. Which,
again, like you say, it's important on the prototyping, you know, part of the process that's in your mind. So, like, how do you go about, you know, say, thinking about what materials you need?
You know, I think it's very much down to you know a number of important things. I think you need to start thinking about the function that the particular product needs to have. You know, for instance, if it's being used indoors or out, if it's going to be used in a dry environment or a wet one, if it needs to react, let's say, to heat or to cold in a particular way, if you're trying to achieve a certain form that's related to how the piece needs to work. Certain materials can only be formed in certain ways. So I was saying to you when we were planning today that the whole process, I suppose, of product design and creating a prototype is very much a holistic process where it's not just a kind of a linear line from start to finish. Yeah. Very often it kind of fluctuates,
floats backwards and forwards on that.
Yeah, you kind of move a little bit forwards and then a little bit back, because you might find that along the way, you will find that you need to go down a different road. You might find a material, for instance, that can only be made in a certain way. So therefore, the form needs to change. So you'll have to go back along the line.
Yeah, I get you.
So in terms of materials, this is just a small selection.
Obviously, you're as furniture design, one of your main sort of materials that you love working in is wood.
Of course. Yeah.
And specifically kind of plywood.
Yeah.
What is it about that material that is so good for the type of products you make?
Well, obviously, furniture, I think, is people associate with wood because it's warm. It can be processed and made into so many different beautiful forms and functions. It's not just a fascination that I have with plywood per se. I think it kind of started for me with kind of how to turn a flat sheet into a three-dimensional thing.
Yeah.
That's a kind of a, if you wanted to relate it to maybe origami, or paper art.
Yeah.
It's that process of kind of finding a way to kind of fold or to score or to cut and slot together flat parts to create a 3D form. So similar to what we have here with the kind of light fitting. So it's, I suppose, a process that I've kind
rather
of
than a
used
more
a lot.
sculptural thing where you start off with a block and carve away.
Yeah.
You're starting off with something that is like I say, predominantly a planar form. A flat 2D object, and you're sort of extracting dimensionality out of it.
Yeah, I think it's just, I suppose it's a method of working. You could, of course, kind of choose a different path, which is what you're talking about there, where you're taking a kind of a large block, and a lot of designers
what is that?
Who are focused on that will use this, which is a high density foam. This people will know it as Oasis, which can be carved, so you can create practically any form in that block, and of course you can laminate up blocks to make any size.
So if you were using, say, vacuum forming, you'd make up your model or your mould from that, and then you could vacuum form on top of it, or even just...
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so, that kind of process of going from 2D to 3D is really just the way I work. It's it's the way I like to work. So that kind of informs a lot of the materials that I use and the processes that I use to create the piece.
And I guess it does lend itself more to sort of digital fabrication processes like laser cutting and CNC, where you're dealing with kind of flat sheets and cutting them out.
Yeah.
Do you, in your own work, have you experimented much with 3D print? I know you've done a little bit more of it over the last while.
Yeah.
Being as we've had 3D printers available in the lab.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, I think it's. I've come from maybe a slightly older kind of generation
you're
where
not that old.
where we're 3D printers just weren't really there. They were there, but they were very expensive to use. So I've come from that background of I suppose the traditional manipulation of maybe flat sheets. To turn them into whatever you need. 3D printing has like we were saying, it has enabled you to kind of explore things that you may not have been able to in the past. Like for instance, if you want to connect various forms or parts together, if your design needed to connect those two parts in some way, you can approach it from the point of view of not just having two separate things that need to be glued or welded, in some way. You can come at it now from the point of view of having a solid form.
Yeah.
Where there might be multiple holes or connections or different parts all fused together in one form. So inside that form might be other parts that are doing different things, and a 3D printer will enable you to create that in one piece.
Yeah. And in terms of like the Fab Lab and how you see the Fab Lab being able to help people with product prototyping, what from your own kind of experience in terms of not just the Fab Lab that we've put together here, but your experience with with the other Fab Labs in Ireland, down in Limerick and stuff like that. Like, how do you see Fab Labs helping?
Well, I think just I've always kind of said that you can have every machine that we have in the world in a space, and it can be free to use, and you can explore lots and lots of different things. But it always starts with having an idea, that there's no point coming in and kind of you might think, well, I want to 3D print a flower today. Can we work on that? Yes, fine. And you'll come out with that beautiful flower. But what is it doing? Is it just another piece that you'll put on your shelf, or is it going to transform how people lead their lives? Is it going to make a difference? So I think having an innovative concept and working that through in whatever way is where it should be at. And I think a Fab Lab that has 3D printers, laser cutters, CNC, all of those different things in it, enables someone to come in with an idea and work it through in a way that not having a lab there is incredibly difficult. So it's just kind of a focal point in which you can get all of the processes and access to all the materials that you see here today, and not just that, but having the knowledge base that someone can come in and ask us, how do I go about making this particular thing? Where would I make it? What would it be made from? That is an incredible resource.
Yeah, perfect. Let's sit back down again. I just want to have a look at your own website, and we'll just check if there's any. I think there's a few questions I saw that people might have. Okay. Let's move our microphone back. We can't afford two microphones, unfortunately. There we go. So, that's brilliant. I mean, looking to the future, before we started recording today, I showed you my latest addition to the Fab Lab, which is our VR headset.
Sure.
And you were actually modelling in 3D.
Yeah, sure.
In VR.
Yeah, it's something that we've kind of spoken about a lot, and we've kind of tested those out in the past. Today was kind of the first time that I've actually physically drawn in 3D with it, and it's an incredible tool. It is mind blowing in how I suppose it could transform the process that we've spoken about today, because you are sketching in 3D, and that model that you create can literally be in 5 minutes time be sent to the 3D printer and printed out.
Yeah.
It's like it speeds up that whole process so much.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a look here.
If you want to call up the site there
we go.
Yeah, this is I suppose one of the areas that I work on, furniture, and it's not just furniture, but it kind of extends into kind of homewares, and kind of large scale buildings as well, small buildings you could say.
Yeah.
This
project here, the Playhouse.
Sure, yeah. Kind of, creating pods and booths, of different kinds is an area that I've focused on for the last 5 or 10 years. It's kind of a passion of mine to create small buildings, you could say.
Yeah.
And I've moved into the kind of office pod area because it enables kind of a lot of the thoughts that I've had in this area to kind of be focused.
Yeah.
That particular project there is from the Cavan Digital Hub, where we were asked to create kind of meeting booths for, in this case, there's 4 people can sit inside this forum.
Yeah.
And again, it's made mostly in plywood. There's certain connection parts in steel. The base is a recycled plastic sheet, and then you have fabric, you have laminate, and there's built-in lighting, built-in power supply. So it kind of brings together a lot of aspects of product design, but very much in the kind of built environment area.
Yeah, like it incorporates lots of technology, but without looking kind of like a piece of technology. It looks just like a very kind of comfortable space.
They work very, very well. That's Cavan Digital Hub, and then we've just last year there we installed some in Trinity College.
Right.
So it's a product that people really seem to relate to.
And then I noticed there's you've got some sort of smaller scale, some of the sort of products that we saw behind us here.
Sure, yeah. This is the shop, the online shop that we just launched a couple of months ago, and it's really just taking some of the kind of very simple kind of household products that we've worked on for many years, and it's great to actually finally have a shop space, an online space.
That's what a pandemic does for everybody. Exactly. It makes you finally get that online presence
Yeah,
together.
I've been trying to do it for years and just never had time. And kind of this year has really been a big push to get everybody online, and it's been amazing. Yeah, sales have been great. All the products come flat pack. So, or mostly flat pack. Certain pieces, there's certain lights and so on, which are relatively small and package up very well. But it's early days. But I think the plan is to add more products to the range. And of course, being available online means that you have a market worldwide. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes.
So I think we've got a couple of questions here. One question that was asked was, we're talking about product design. We've run our design skills course, which was a QQI course, short kind of 10-week course, introduction to design really. If people want to go on from there to study product design, some people are asking, where can you go to learn this stuff?
Well, there are several kind of courses that we have in Ireland, which are really good. I studied at the DIT, or what used to be called the DIT, and that was in environmental design, which covered a kind of a range of different things. We looked at interior design and furniture and stage and theatre design, and also a lot of the materials research, which kind of you can see there. So that course is very good. It's a 4-year course, and you really get a fantastic kind of background in all aspects that we spoke about today: the drawings, the technical side, the CAD. You make a lot of things as well. Other courses are the one of the main ones, I suppose, is NCAD. They run a product design course there, specifically in product design. So that's a really great course. Again, a 4-year course. Other colleges like Sligo.
I was going to say, is there any up this end? I mean, I know Sligo. You've actually lectured on the course in Sligo.
Yeah, Sligo is a great course and a great college. And again, you can study product design, you could study interiors, theatre design.
There's kind of a wider kind of design brief in Sligo, is it?
Well, it's pretty much the same as NCAD or Dublin. Sligo in kind of more recent years has gotten very much into kind of UX design, computer gaming. That whole area kind of sucks in a lot of elements of product design to it,
but onto a digital kind of platform,
into a different format. Yeah. So I think once you get a grounding, very often courses like that will have kind of a basic kind of 1-year course that you start with, which will cover a lot of aspects of the process, and then you'll specialize in certain areas. So don't think that you need to kind of stick with a particular aspect of design when you start. Very often you can do a 1-year course and then move into a different area. Right. But certainly the course that we run here, that I work with, and we've ran for many years here now. That, as we were saying earlier on today, it's a great starting point to give people a kind of a background in all of this stuff that we're talking about here, and you can then say, okay, I'm gonna go on and do a longer course.
Yeah, and I know there's a course in Cavan Institute as well. They do like a 1-year course in design, which is kind of obviously it's not degree level course like the ones in Sligo and NCAD, but it's kind of it would allow someone to sort of use it as a stepping stone to go on.
Sure. Yeah. Most courses like that, if you take a 1-year cert course, it's really giving you a flavour of a particular field. So you might from there go on to maybe Sligo and take a 2 or a 3-year course.
Yeah.
So I would always recommend that. I've seen a lot of people kind of start maybe a 4-year
degree course,
and after kind of 8 or 9 months, they're kind of thinking, no, it's not really for me.
Can I hack this?
Yeah, and if and that course might be in a particular area. So I would always say start with a kind of a foundation course. There are lots of those all over Ireland, which will give you pointers into particular fields, whether that's more in the art scene, whether it might be in the engineering side of things, whether it's product design, whether it's interiors, the built environment.
And when we're all allowed back out into the world, certainly come and take a course at the Fab Lab when we're able to run some in person again.
Sure.
And if we run any online courses, everybody's more than welcome to kind of join us on those as well. Hopefully we'll be announcing some early in the new year. Listen, Leo, I think that's a great place to end it today. Thanks for coming in, and thanks to everybody for watching these Facebook Live sessions over the last 4 weeks. We're going to be planning more in the new year. So again, let us know if there's any particular topics that you want us to talk about. We're more than happy to do requests. Just want to point everybody towards a couple of resources. If you want to hear a bit more of myself and Leo shooting the breeze, then check out our podcast, which is up on it's on all the major podcast platforms. It's the Fab Lab Maker Hub podcast. So one of the episodes I was chatting to Leo, and we got conversations with other kind of product designers and artists up there as well. And season 2 is going to be coming in the new year as well, just to trail that. And then finally, our our YouTube channel has lots of videos. Again, there's a video of myself and Leo going through the CNC process in Leo's workshop, and laser cutting, 3D printing, you name it. It's all up there on the YouTube channel. So go and check that out as well. Again, if there's any questions, feel free to email them or message us on Facebook. And until next time, thanks for watching. Happy Christmas. Stay safe. And goodbye. Cheers.